Right now, you are holding a device more powerful than the computers that sent humans to the moon. You use it to watch cat videos. But before you judge yourself, understand this. The road that led to that tiny glowing rectangle in your pocket took 300,000 years to build. 300,000 years of human struggle, invention, failure, and genius. All leading to the moment you unlock your screen without even thinking about it. This is that story. It is 300,000 BC. You are alive. Barely. You have no language, no writing, no way to tell the person next to you that there is a lion behind them, except to scream and point and hope they understand. Communication in its earliest form was raw, desperate, and physical. A grunt, a gesture, a handprint pressed into a cave wall that said, "I was here. I existed. Remember me." Those cave paintings were humanity's first messages, the first attempt to say something that would outlast the moment. Then came fire. Fire changed everything. Not just because it kept you warm, but because it meant you could sit together in the dark and talk. Stories began, language evolved. Ideas could travel from one mind to another for the very first time. Then came drums. African tribes discovered that sound could travel across hills and valleys faster than any human runner. They built entire languages out of rhythm. A message could travel 160 kilometers in hours through a chain of drummers, the world's first communication network. Humanity had just invented the concept of sending a signal over a distance. It would take another 299,000 years to perfect it. Around 3200 BC, something happened that changed the game forever. Someone decided to stop relying on memory and started carving symbols into clay. Writing was born. Suddenly a thought didn't have to die with the person who had it. A king in Mesopotamia could send orders across his empire without ever leaving his throne. A merchant could record a debt and collect it months later. Information had become something you could store. The Egyptians wrote on papyrus. The Romans built roads, not just for armies, but for messengers. The Roman postal system, called the cursus publicus, could deliver a message across the entire empire in just 2 weeks. 2 weeks, across thousands of miles, in 100 AD. That was considered miraculous. Then in 1440, a German man named Johannes Gutenberg put together a machine with movable metal letters and changed civilization overnight. The printing press. Suddenly ideas didn't just travel between kings and emperors. They traveled between ordinary people. Books, pamphlets, news, protest, revolution. The printing press caused the Protestant Reformation. It spread science, it ended the Dark Ages, all because humans found a faster way to pass a message. By the 1800s, humanity had been waiting thousands of years for the next leap. It came in the form of electricity. In 1837, Samuel Morse tapped his finger on a small device and sent a coded electrical signal down a wire. The telegraph was born. For the first time in history, a message could travel at the speed of light. Not 2 weeks, not 2 days, not 2 hours, instantly. The world went silent for a moment, and then went absolutely insane trying to wire everything together. Cables were laid across the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean so that Europe and America could communicate in real time. When the first transatlantic telegram was sent in 1858, people threw parties in the streets. They thought it was a miracle. They had no idea what was coming. In 1876, a Scottish-American inventor named Alexander Graham Bell picked up a device, spoke into it, and his voice came out of a receiver in another room. He said 7 words that changed history. "Mr. Watson, come here. I want to see you." The telephone was born. The human voice could now travel through a wire. Distance was no longer a barrier to conversation. For the first time, you could hear someone's voice without them being in the room. People wept. They genuinely wept, because they understood in that moment that the world had just gotten smaller. But wires were still wires, and wires could be cut. Wires needed infrastructure. Wires couldn't reach a ship in the middle of the ocean. In 1895, Guglielmo Marconi figured out how to send a signal through the air itself. No wires, no cables, just invisible waves rippling through the atmosphere, carrying human voices and music and news to anyone with a receiver. Radio. By the 1920s, families across America and Europe were gathered around wooden boxes in their living rooms, listening to music, news, and stories broadcast from hundreds of miles away. It felt like magic. Then came television. Then came the first computers, machines the size of entire rooms that could calculate things faster than any human mind. By 1969, those computers helped land 2 humans on the surface of the moon. And in that same year, a small group of scientists connected 4 university computers together through a network. They called it ARPANET. You know it today as the Internet. The seed had been planted, but nobody, not even the scientists who built it, fully understood what they had just created. It is April 3rd, 1973. A man named Martin Cooper is standing on a street corner in New York City. He is holding something that looks like a brick with an antenna. It weighs over a kilogram. Its battery will die in 20 minutes. He dials a number. It rings. His rival at Bell Labs picks up. And Martin Cooper says, "I'm calling you from a cellular phone. A real handheld cellular phone." The first mobile phone call in human history had just been made. His rival on the other end was so stunned he said nothing. Neither would you. It took another 10 years to bring that phone to market. The Motorola Dynatac 8000X launched in 1983 for the price of $3,995, nearly $12,000 in today's money. Only the wealthy could afford one. But the idea was loose in the world now, and it could not be stopped. Through the 1990s, phones got smaller. The Nokia 3310 became the most beloved device on the planet. You could drop it from a building and it would survive. People played Snake on tiny green screens and thought they had everything they needed. They had no idea, because in a quiet laboratory in California, a small company called Apple was about to detonate a bomb that would reshape human civilization. January 9th, 2007. Steve Jobs walks onto a stage in San Francisco wearing his black turtleneck. He says, "Every once in a while, a revolutionary product comes along that changes everything." The crowd is already cheering, but they don't yet know what they're cheering for. He holds up a small black rectangle of glass and metal. He says, "This is the day I've been looking forward to for 2.5 years." He touches the screen with one finger, and it responds. No keyboard, no stylus, just glass that understood the human touch. The iPhone. In that moment, the phone stopped being a phone. It became a camera, a music player, a map, a library containing every book ever written, a portal to every human being on Earth. Within 3 years, there were apps for everything. Within 5 years, half the world was carrying one. Within 10 years, children were being born into a world where a smartphone was as natural and expected as running water. The technology that took 300,000 years to build had collapsed into a device that fit in your pocket. And nobody was ready for what that meant. Today there are 6.8 billion smartphones on Earth. That is more smartphones than there are toilets. Think about that for a moment. We solved communication before we solved sanitation. The average person touches their phone 2,617 times per day. We check it first thing in the morning before we say a word to the person next to us. We check it at dinner. We check it in the dark when we can't sleep. In the last 15 years, smartphones have toppled governments. They have documented injustice that would have stayed hidden. They have connected people across oceans who would never have found each other. They have given a voice to people who had none. They have also made us lonelier than any generation before us. A teenager today has access to more information than any king, emperor, or genius in human history ever did. And they use it to scroll for 3 hours, wondering why nobody liked their photo. This is not a failure of technology. This is the oldest human story there is. We build the tool, and then we spend generations figuring out how to use it wisely. It happened with fire. It happened with the printing press. It happened with the atom. And it is happening right now with the glowing rectangle in your pocket. 300,000 years ago, your ancestor pressed their hand into wet cave wall and left a mark. They wanted to be remembered. They wanted to reach across time and touch someone they would never meet and say, "I was here. Every phone call ever made, every text ever sent, every photo ever taken and shared. It is all the same gesture. It is still a handprint on a cave wall. We have just found faster ways to press it. The question was never whether we could connect. The question has always been, what do we say when we do?"